20 starts right now.
He just kept stabbing and stabbing. I remember trying to defend myself like this with my hands, and that's where I got the cuts on my hands.
Jason was confronted by the assailant. Someone came into their apartment, had assaulted him and his roommate.
Because she was stabbed so many times, you think, this is personal. This is someone who wanted her dead.
When you go into her apartment, what is the scene like?
You could tell that there was a struggle in there. She fought hard.
Jonna went door to door trying to get assistance.
At one point, I was praying. It wasn't her.
They had made a mistake. Now, revisiting the scene of a nightmare.
He pushed me back this way, and I fell on the bed like this. I took off and I ran as fast as I could this way.
Did it trouble you that he ran away from the scene to get help instead of trying somehow to help her?
Scared, he wants to get away.
So he ran from here over this way to the convenience store.
I didn't have anything to do with this. I had something to hide. Why would I take this test?
I believe that's next to Warren House, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm Officer Dinah Kidd. I work for the Knox County Sheriff's Department. It was around 4:15 a.m. on the night of December 6th. It was real windy that night. We didn't have a lot of calls coming in. We felt like we were wrapping up our night because it was only a couple more hours till we'd get off.
8791.
And then we get the dispatch call that says there's a young man that had ran to the Weigels.
1080 with the victim just occurred at Weigels, 328 North Cedar Bluff. Time, stand by for updates.
It's early morning in December when the clerk inside this convenience store gets a startling visitor. A young man who's bloody, pleading for help. He's barefoot and appears to have been seriously injured.
Knox County 911.
Yes, Mr. Weigels, remember at Cedar Bluff Road?
Mm-hmm.
There's a man that just walked in the store. He was heavily bloodied. Looks like he's been in a fight.
A gentleman had called in from the Weigels on Cedar Bluff and stated that he had been attacked.
When he ran up to the Weigels, he had blood all over his clothing as he entered into the gas station. He had a stab wound to his face. He had cuts on his hands. He was stabbed in the chest. So he did have obvious signs of trauma on his body.
Does he need an ambulance?
Yeah, that's what he said.
Okay, can I talk to him, please?
Sure, he wants to talk.
All right, what's your name?
Jason Amami.
Jason?
Amami.
Now what happened?
I just felt somebody stab me right in my chest.
Somebody stabbed you?
Me in my face. And that's the first thing I did was get up and run.
He'd heard some noise. He came outside. He came out into the hallway, and he had seen someone in the hallway, which then came to him and attacked him. He eventually got away from the attacker, and Jason had ran out the door.
He had on clothing that he was sleeping in, which was just a pair of shorts.
He had left so abruptly that he didn't even take time to get his glasses or his shoes before leaving the apartment. He just ran out as quickly as possible to flee and get help.
And while Jason Amami tells the clerk that he was able to get away, shockingly, he says he wasn't alone in that apartment.
His roommate's still in there. Apparently somebody broke into his house.
Is his roommate okay?
He doesn't know. Is he okay?
She was screaming very loud.
Now, where's your address at?
Redora Road.
Redora?
R-H-O-D-O-R-A.
R-H-O?
Park Apartment.
When the call came out, we then went to the apartment complex to check on the girl and kind of see what we could find there.
21-year-old Jonna Berry is barely clinging to life.
They found Jonna laying just inside an entranceway. She was face down and had multiple wounds to her body.
You were one of the first responders here.
Yes, ma'am.
What do you remember about Jonna Berry? What kind of shape was she in?
She was not in good shape. As soon as you opened the door, she was laying in the corridor at the bottom of the steps. Her apartment was at the top of the steps, and she was covered in blood. That it was her hair. She's got beautiful blonde hair, and it stuck with me because at the time I thought she might have red hair because there was so much blood.
Just kind of moaning, making a few sounds, but was unable to talk due to her injuries.
She did have a very large wound on her neck. She also had multiple stab wounds across her body.
Over 25 wounds to her body.
It was very obvious that Jonna had been in a fight for her life and that it was a very violent struggle.
For me, it was one of the worst crime scenes that I have been involved in since being in law enforcement.
When you go into her apartment, what is the scene like?
When we go up the steps and go into the apartment looking for the suspect or anybody else that's injured, the knife was in the floor, and it had blood on it, hair on it, and it was bent.
There were 6 units in the apartment building. There was blood on each of the doors within the 6 units. And we could tell from that Jonna was the person who went door to door trying to get assistance.
It's 4 o'clock in the morning. It's not the middle of the night, per se.
One individual thought something.
Ground below that peephole, absolutely heartbreaking.
Unfortunately, the call dropped and there was no other activity.
Everything we have for Brandon Park Apartments.
Once the residence was cleared and we noticed there's no one else injured in the apartment, we go back down the stairs. I go back to her. So I leaned down and was talking to her, asking her if she knew who done this, if she knew where they went. I was just asking her all kinds of questions, try to help us find out who done this and what had happened. She would move around a little bit, but she couldn't answer me. So by this time, I just kind of held her hand and waited on EMS to arrive.
That night, 2 young people come face to face with an intruder. Jason manages to escape, but Jonna, who was too injured to speak, did not.
We were wondering what led to this horrific tragedy.
The attacker has vanished, the motive unknown.
Are our children safe? Are we safe? We had no idea who did this.
Police launch a full-scale manhunt across the Knoxville community. Inside that foyer, Jonna Berry is still alive, brutally wounded, and struggling to hold on.
I just held her hand and waited on EMS to arrive.
I remember distinctly that it was raining when I got to the scene.
Jonna dies in the ambulance, her fight ending before she ever reaches the hospital. What do you think that may have meant to her or to you to even just be there to comfort her?
I hope it helped her, and to me it would mean a lot if that was my child there.
It was 4 a.m. in the morning on December the 6th. We got a phone call from Knoxville UT Hospital. The gentleman on the other end of the phone, he asked to speak to Mike, which was very unusual because nobody called my cell phone and asked to speak with my husband.
She handed me the phone, and there was somebody on there said, "Are you Michael Berry?" And I said, "Yes." "Do you have a daughter, Jonna?" And I said, "Yes." Just to let you know, your daughter was murdered.
I heard him say, "Jonna's been murdered." At one point, I was praying it wasn't her.
They had made a mistake.
Yeah. My youngest son lived here, so I called him and I said, hysterically, it's Jonna. Something's happened. You need to get to UT.
This had to be a nightmare for everybody.
It was. It rained all the way. It was like the angels was just crying.
It's just something that you never forget.
After nearly 4 hours on the road, Jonna's parents finally make it to the hospital.
When we got there, my youngest son was in the parking lot. He said, "It's true, Mama, it's Jonna."
Did you have any idea what happened at that moment?
No. Yeah. The boys identified her body, which was very upsetting to me.
She was in bad shape.
Yes. I wish that I could spare them the heartache and the memory that they'll have forever.
Jonna, smile for the camera, girl.
Hey!
Jonna grew up in a tight-knit family in Bristol, Tennessee. Take me back. Tell me what kind of a little child she was.
Jonna was a very happy child. She was very ambitious. She did dance and cheerleading.
2 older brothers.
She had 2 older brothers. They were very protective of her.
You had a beauty salon, and I imagine she was running around.
Yes, she would get a manicure. I polished her little nails. She always wanted makeup on and her hair done. She was my best friend.
She was your best friend?
She was.
After high school, Jonna heads off to East Tennessee State University, where she gets a degree in child psychology. What was it that she aspired to? What were her aspirations?
She wanted to devote her life to children. She wanted to help them in any way she could.
As Jonna grows older, her dreams for her future grow bigger, and she meets her fiancé, Jason White.
Jonna got engaged when she was 20.
Kind of young.
It was young, but she knew what she wanted and she worked hard to get it.
Jonna loves children, and that passion leads her to Knoxville, where she begins working toward a master's degree in child psychology. Most here consider this a safe slice of America, next to the Tennessee River. About 35 miles away, you'll find Dollywood, nestled in the Great Smoky Mountains. She's going to school, she's moving, about to get a new degree. That's a lot.
But she was so ambitious. She was constantly on the move.
How does she go about finding a place to live?
She was in the process of looking for an apartment, but we hadn't found the exact thing, so she stayed with a friend from college. She rented a bedroom.
That friend was Jonna's roommate, Jason Amami.
I'd known Jason for a couple years prior, when she was in college.
He was somebody you were familiar with?
Yeah, we knew him, and he was a good friend. It was just a temporary thing.
Were you at all questioning or concerned about Jason Amami?
Jason was stabbed also, but Jonna's brothers and her dad wondered why Jason didn't help her.
And police have their own questions. They sit down for the first of several interviews with Amami.
He was able to explain to us that he woke up in the middle of the night because he heard a scream. Jason knew that Jonna did have nightmares, so at first he assumed that she could have just been having a nightmare. But as he got up, he noticed that there was a male figure backing out of Jonna's bedroom.
Jason was confronted by the assailant. He was stabbed about 6 to 8 times.
At that point, Jason didn't hear any more screams for Jonna. He wasn't sure if she had escaped the apartment or not. He just ran out as quickly as possible.
You have an initial reaction to any attack, and that's going to be fight, flight, freeze.
To unravel the mystery of Jonna Berry's murder, police zero in on a critical piece of evidence found at the scene.
When officers go inside the apartment, they see so much blood, it's everywhere. Then they see a bloody shoe print.
A single shoe print soaked in blood. Could this be the clue that unmasks the killer?
Jonna was funny, charismatic, intelligent. She just had this aura about her that just drew people in. Who would want to hurt somebody that was so pure?
Christmas was Jonna's favorite time of year, her family says. And just hours before the murder, she and her mom were on the phone talking about picking up gifts for the holidays.
I said, I did some Christmas shopping today, and she said, oh, I did too. We talked a little more, and we said good night, and I love you, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.
The night she died, she had been wrapping Christmas gifts for children.
Jonna had them separated, you know, in little piles, they said, with the kids' names on them.
It just seems so tragic right before Christmas.
Fear gripped the city of Knoxville. A young woman savagely stabbed in her own home, and her killer on the loose.
21-year-old Jonna Berry and her roommate were stabbed in their Brendan Park apartment.
It really left the community feeling unsettled.
I'm a news anchor here at WATE in Knoxville, and I have covered the Jonna Berry case since the very beginning. This seemed to be a crime out of nowhere. There were so many questions, and people were wondering what on earth is going on.
To this day, Jonna's mom, Joan, can't shake the image. Her daughter bleeding, terrified, pounding on doors, and nobody answering. When you heard that she frantically ran asking for help and nobody answered their doors, what did you make of that?
It angered me at first. You know, I can understand someone not opening the door at 4 o'clock in the morning. You know, I can understand that. People don't want to get involved. Why couldn't you be more like Jonna and want to help people? She would have helped anybody.
Some of the folks in the apartment complex possibly could not have heard the knock on the door due to it being in the middle of the night and the bedroom being located so far away from the front door. Some people, we learned, were not at home.
Detectives began a full-scale investigation, and there's one thing that is impossible to ignore: the sheer amount of blood in Jonna's apartment. How bloody was this crime scene?
There was blood in not only in Jonna's bedroom, Jason's bedroom, blood in the living room, blood on the back door, blood out the back of the apartment going down the stairs.
Blood is on the doorknob, blood is on the floor, blood is on the door.
Looked like there had been some type of fight in Jonna's bedroom.
This had been a struggle.
Yes, you could tell that there was a struggle in there. You could tell that she fought hard.
Numerous samples of blood were taken from the crime scene. The blood sample were sent to the TBI for analysis. This is the exit that the perpetrator took the night of the crime. We can see that this door is ajar. There's no evidence of a forcible break-in.
Detectives wanted to find out was how the person got into the apartment without no forced entry being there. Was the door left unlocked? Did they have a key? Were they let in?
There was some speculation that Jonna had been on the phone with her fiancé, and perhaps in the excitement of wrapping the gifts and just having these other distractions that she forgot to lock the door.
Could it have been a friend of theirs that was in the apartment? Was it somebody that had gotten upset with Jason or Jonna? So there's a lot of different theories that were being thought about of what could have happened.
Investigators also discover curious items in the apartment, like a hat and a CD case they believe belonged to the killer.
The Atlanta Braves hat, the CD case, all of those things were leading us to believe that someone else possibly had entered the apartment since these things did not belong to either one of the occupants of the apartment.
The murder weapon was discovered in the hallway directly outside of Jonna's bedroom.
The knife was in the floor, and it had blood on it, hair on it, and it was bent.
The hair that was found on the knife appeared to be from Jonna.
We knew right away that the knife came from inside the home. It was part of a matching set that was from the kitchen. What stood out to me the most about the weapon is how damaged it was. The handle was broken, the blade was bent. I could only assume that it had hit bone, that it was used multiple times, that it was very violent just given the force to break the handle.
While the murder weapon reveals a violent struggle, there's a single piece of evidence left on the blade which might point to the hand that held it.
There was a partial fingerprint that was found on the knife. There was an unknown DNA that was found on the knife.
Now that's got to be important because now that's going to be something that's going to lead you to somebody.
Oh yes, very, very important. If we can match a fingerprint or a partial fingerprint to someone, that would help. Our guys photographed it, sent that off to the lab to see if they would be able to get the fingerprint off of there and see if it was in any kind of system or database that they had.
But police aren't finished yet. In Jason's room, they discover a piece of cardboard, and on it, a damning piece of evidence.
There was a very pronounced shoe print. And what stood out about the shoe print the most is that it was in blood.
Detectives also take note of the shocking number of times that Jonna was stabbed.
Jonna's autopsy revealed that
As far as the hospital goes, that was sort of a dead end. It never produced any kind of information either.
Jonna had no enemies. You know, nobody ever expressed being angry with her, or she never had any trouble with anybody. We had no earthly idea of who could have done this.
We really focused mostly on her closest circle. The first people that we wanted to clear from Jonna's murder were Jason, the roommate, and Jason, her fiance at the time.
The violent nature of the attack, the numerosity of the wounds, all hinted towards some sort of personal relationship that she may have had with somebody.
Joan Berry says her daughter met Jason White at a party when they were both students at East Tennessee State University, and the romance moved quickly.
We're very fond of Jason. She got engaged at Christmas, and she couldn't wait to show me her ring.
She wanted more than anything to be his wife and be a mom and raise a child with him and have them grow old together. She was so excited to marry him.
After graduation, Jason moves to Michigan to get his law degree, while Jonna moves to Knoxville to continue her studies.
He was in Michigan, and every night she would go to sleep with them talking. And then when she would go to sleep is when he would hang up.
In speaking with Jason White, he had explained to us that he talked to Jonna that night.
Detectives learned through his cell phone records that his cell phone appeared to be in Michigan the entire time.
No, there was no suspicions in my mind. I had never crossed my mind that Jason White ever did that.
Very quickly within the investigation, Jason White was cleared as a suspect.
Police are also interested in talking to the other Jason in Jonna's life, her roommate, Jason Amami.
So, how are you doing? I am doing good.
Police interview Jason the day after he gets out of the hospital, where he was treated for wounds to his chest, face, and hands.
Once Jonna's fiance was ruled out, all eyes went to her roommate. And one of the first questions investigators asked him was, do you have a romantic interest in Jonna?
As far as your relationship with Jonna, how long have you known her?
I've known her for probably at least over 5 years.
Okay. Did you guys ever date?
No.
Never?
No. I was living in Knoxville and she needed a place to stay, so I said I'd be happy to let you live with me and it wouldn't be a problem.
She's got her fiance. Right. This is another guy. What did you make of the arrangement for her to move in with a guy as a roommate?
I was fine with that. I'd known Jason for a couple of years. He was a boyfriend of one of her good friends too, so. And even her fiance, Jason White, he didn't have a problem with it.
He tells Detective Delgado that on the night of the attack, he was watching TV when Jonna decides to go to bed.
She probably went to sleep about 10:30. I probably went to sleep 12:30 around there.
What do you remember after that?
I just remember waking up, hearing screams. I looked at my alarm clock. I believe I remember seeing a 4. so probably 4 a.m. sometime.
Jason says it's not the first time he's been awakened by Jonna screaming at night.
She sleeps very light. She told me when she first moved in, she said, you know, if I wake up and I'm scared or something, you know, just come in and check on me, make sure I'm okay.
At first he assumed that she could have just been having a nightmare, but as he got up and he was leaving his room to enter her bedroom, he noticed that there was a male figure.
Next thing I remember is I'm on my bed and he's on top of me. I just remember fighting with him. He punched me in my face. I kept telling him, I was like, what do you want? He just kept telling me, shut up, shut up. And then I felt a sharp pain right here, and that's when I knew he had a knife.
He grabbed the knife to try to get it away from the individual. He kicked the individual in the groin area. The individual went back against the bedroom wall. He saw an opening that he would be able to get out of the bedroom.
At that point, he didn't hear any more screams for Jonna. He wasn't sure if she had escaped the apartment or not. But at that point, he just ran out of the apartment as quickly as possible.
You ran out of the apartment. Did you take anything with you?
I didn't even think about it.
What were you wearing?
I was wearing blue workout shorts, which I wore to the gym, and a pair of boxers.
Okay.
And that's all I was wearing. I just ran straight out the door and right across the street. And I was banging on some of the doors at the other complex.
Investigators zero in on an important point in Jason's story. He came face to face with his attacker, Jonna's killer.
Now, let's just go through what this guy looks like.
He's got short hair, kind of like mine. It's like a brownish blonde color.
He felt confident that he would be able to identify the person, provide a sketch of what this individual looked like.
This is Tom. Tom, this is Jason.
Hey, how's it going?
Tom's going to help you with the composite.
Using Jason's detailed description of that attacker, police are able to generate a photorealistic computer composite of their suspect. So he's able to give you some details about what this intruder looked like.
Yes, because he was face to face with that person. So he's really the only living survivor that can give us a description of the individual.
Despite Jason's cooperation, investigators say they still have lingering questions about Jonna's roommate.
There was no forced entry, and I think that led investigators to probably focus a little bit more on Jason Amami.
Also, you know, we had to look at the murder weapon came from within the apartment, within their own knife set. So, you know, Jason had access to that. Could he have gotten the knife and used it to commit this crime? Could he have cut his own finger? It'd be pretty hard to stab yourself in the face close to your eye, but we couldn't rule that out.
Is Jason a victim or a suspect? Investigators take him back to the scene of the crime. Will his story hold up?
He just kept stabbing and stabbing. That's at the point to where I noticed he finally had a knife.
The walkthrough was really important for us. Look for inconsistencies regarding what he was telling us about the scene, what happened that night.
We had no choice.
But there's an unexpected guest at the funeral. Just 48 hours after he was released from the hospital, Jonna's roommate, Jason Amami, attends the funeral. And so do detectives.
There was a lot of chatter about the fact that Jason had run from the scene and leaving Jonna there essentially to die.
People thought he had to have some kind of role in this because of his actions or inaction.
Did it trouble you that he ran away from the scene to get help instead of trying somehow to help her?
It did for a while, but you know, after you have time to process things and really think about it, you know, I thought he was just trying to get out too, you know, because he was attacked.
Detectives want an exact picture of what happened inside Jonna and Jason's apartment. With his detailed play-by-play, Jason takes them as close as possible to being in that room when the attack happened.
Date is December 9th, 2004. Time is 15:59.
We had him look around to see if anything was missing, if anything had been stolen or disrupted.
There was an Atlanta Braves baseball cap that was found in Jonna's bed that was not there before, was not owned by Jonna, was not owned by Jason Amami.
the partial shoe print on the cardboard, the Atlanta Braves hat. Those things were leading us to believe that someone else possibly had entered the apartment.
In the sheriff's office video of the walkthrough, you can see that Jason's wounds from the attack are still fresh and visible. Still, he's able to calmly describe the evening's events in great detail.
I came home from the gym and the door was locked. Jonna was sitting right here.
The walkthrough was really important for us to watch his body language, listen to him, look for inconsistencies regarding what he was telling us about the scene, what happened that night.
He tells police the same story he did in his interview the day of the murder. Jonna went to sleep first. He went to bed around 12:30 and then was awakened around 4 a.m.
I heard a scream. I didn't say a word. My door was totally closed to my room. I woke up just from my sleep here, and I remember walking this way.
He says he opened his bedroom door, which was closed. He was confronted by someone.
And he is right there. And I'm still looking down, and I remember doing this and having him face me and grab me like this. And then he pushed me back this way, and I fell on the bed like this.
At first he was confused. He wasn't sure if he was being punched or being stabbed.
He just kept stabbing and stabbing. And that's at the point to where I noticed he finally had a knife. I remember trying to defend myself like this with my hands, and that's where I got the cuts on my hands.
And Jason described pushing them back towards the wall of the bedroom. That information was corroborated by blood smear on the drywall.
Jason says he no longer heard Jonna screaming and didn't know if she had escaped the apartment or not.
I took off and I ran as fast as I could this way.
He said that when he left the apartment, he had to unlock the front door to get out.
And as I ran through here and got the door open, I just ran. I didn't even stop in here. I ran down through here and down these stairs.
So Jonna's roommate goes running from this apartment complex. What route did he take?
Jonna's apartment is located over this way, so he ran out of the apartment complex. He saw a figure off in the distance. He thought it was the person that was still chasing him or looking for him.
Came this way and looked closer at it. And I saw a figure come from behind this little cabana here and kneel down in between one of these bushes here on the other side of the pool. And it was kind of like somebody going like this. Walking like this.
After knocking on doors at a neighboring apartment complex but not getting any help, Jason takes off down the road.
I think the biggest information that we got from the walkthrough was he felt like he was being pursued, and you kind of started to understand how and why he made it all the way to the 24-hour convenience store before he could summon help.
I bolted down to the street. And I got behind the car and started yelling even more. They didn't even stop. So I remember going just right next to these bushes here. I remember scaling right about this point right here. And then when I got to the door here, I looked inside and noticed the clerk. I got to here and told him to get help.
After that minute-by-minute account that was consistent with his earlier statements, detectives are now less convinced that Jason could be the killer. But is he telling the full truth?
When Jason was confronted by the polygrapher, he became very upset.
Turn your chair around, let's talk. Yeah. Your scores were substantial, Faith. Where am I wrong then? I have told you the 100% truth.
And new physical evidence leads to more questions than answers.
There was Jonna's DNA, Jason Amamy's DNA, and there was an unknown DNA that was collected.
They realize there's a third party that was in that room.
And a twist so wild, not even seasoned investigators could see it coming.
I felt very confident. This has to be our guy.
Why would anybody want to cop to a crime they didn't commit?
is still looking to track down a murderer tonight, nearly 3 years after their daughter and a UT co-ed is killed in her apartment.
What is that like for you as a family to have your daughter murdered and no one arrested for it?
That was the only thing on my mind from morning to night. That's all I could think about.
When it comes to this mother wanting to find answers, she would stop at nothing.
We need to know who did this to Jonna. We need answers.
We would follow up with the tips that we would get.
Ruling out suspects.
All I'm trying to determine is the truth. And I'll give my point, Jason, that you haven't told it to me. I have told you the 100% truth.
And seeing what's left.
There was an unknown DNA that was collected from several locations inside and outside of the apartment.
Now that's got to be important because now that's going to be something that's going to lead you to somebody. You get the case of Jonna Berry and you're running samples. Give me an idea of how that works.
There's no other person, literally no other person in the world, but you that could have left that sample.
You know what happened to this girl?
Here in Knoxville, we don't have a murder every day. When something like this happened to Jonna Berry, to kind of shook up the neighborhood.
Brendan Park Apartments calls itself a peaceful retreat here in West Knoxville. But one early December morning, that peace was shattered. 21-year-old Jonna Berry had been brutally stabbed in her own apartment.
In a million years, I would never have thought that this would have happened to my daughter.
21-year-old Jonna Berry and her roommate were stabbed in their Brendan Park apartment on December 6th. The roommate who survived was able to call police, but Jonna didn't make it, and her killer is still on the loose.
Based on the description that Jason gave us, we had a composite sketch made.
This is who sheriff's investigators are trying to identify. He's in his 20s, about 5 feet 8 inches tall, 150 pounds.
The thing about the composite, it had some really distinguishing features. Kind of almond-shaped eyes, widow's peak, kind of a blunted nose, but a white male.
If you think you have information that could help the case, you're asked to call the sheriff's office.
Leads were coming in, but leading nowhere. Meanwhile, Jana's mom turns her grief into frustration. The weeks go by, no arrest. What is that like for you as a family to have your daughter murdered and no one arrested for it?
We called every day. We would call the detectives.
There was that feeling that detectives and the sheriff's office weren't doing enough, when in reality, they were working this every day. There just weren't any answers.
Jana Berry's family is still upset over a lack of closure.
I can tell you that the 2 detectives assigned to the case were running nonstop, chasing down leads, going through tip lines. All of those things were happening, but the end result wasn't there.
It was very hard for me not to have an answer for Jana's parents, and speaking with them on a daily basis, letting them know there's nothing new, there's no more leads.
I became so worried that it would become a cold case and we would never get answers. I kept it in the media. I did everything that I could.
You turned your grief into action.
I did. I did.
Yesterday, they were at the track in Bristol. Today, a church in downtown Knoxville.
She called me every time she was doing something different. Hey, we're going to put flyers at the cleaners. Can you come?
Joan used her own money to put billboards all over town, including a heavily traveled stretch of I-40.
We had several billboards with Jana's pictures, with the picture of the composite on them, and $70,000 reward.
A local grocery store chain had information about seeking help to solve the unsolved murder on their delivery trucks.
We handed out flyers. Family and volunteers put flyers on cars in the neighborhoods around through there.
I don't think I could ever be as strong as Joan. She wouldn't stop. She digs in and she just goes.
That was the only thing on my mind every day, from morning to night. That's all I could think about was who would kill Jana.
While the investigation has made little progress in naming a suspect, things are moving ahead on the forensics front.
Inside Jana's apartment, there was a very pronounced shoe print in blood.
We ended up sending off the cardboard that the tread pattern was on, and we got information back from that this tread appeared to be this type shoe, Faded Glory. Most have sold at Walmart.
The shoe print ID is the most promising evidence so far, leading detectives to their strongest suspect.
We got a tip a few streets over from the apartment complex that an individual had been involved in some crimes, some thefts, and that led us to an individual named Michael Percival. He lived in a trailer park, probably within a few miles of the apartment complex. When we went into the trailer to talk to him, the carpet cleaner was sitting there next to the living room.
A carpet cleaner isn't necessarily suspicious in and of itself, but what if somebody was using it to clean up blood tracked in on the bottom of their shoe? Detectives ask Percival if they can look at his shoes.
Detective Delgado retrieved the shoes for Michael Percival, and she noticed the tread on those being similar to the tread that were found in the apartment in Jason Amamy's room. She kind of elbowed me and showed me the tread, and we were both kind of like, holy cow, these could really be, the shoes.
I saw Captain Hall, and he said, we've got him. He still had the shoes, Kevin. He still had the shoes. Everything looked like it was lining up for us. Michael Percival was the individual responsible for Jana's death.
But does the shoe fit?
We can't believe what he's saying. It doesn't make any sense.
And there are more questions for Jason Amamy as his patience wears thin.
100%. I have anything to do with this. Calm down. I'm not here. I don't get allowed to do that. Calm down. I feel like a suspect.
Detectives Hall and Delgado have just gotten a big lead in Jonna Berry's murder case. They're led to a 19-year-old named Michael Percival. His shoes appear to match that bloody shoe print left behind at the crime scene.
I felt very confident. This has to be our guy.
Both of us were kind of big-eyed.
It was just like, we've got it solved. We couldn't believe that he kept the shoes.
Investigators bring Percival in for an interview. And in a shocking admission, the teenager says he witnessed the murder.
When Michael first admitted to being at Jonna's house, he explained that this was part of a drug deal gone wrong.
He said that he went there with a drug dealer to collect money from Jonna and Jason for drugs that they had purchased. He said that he entered the apartment and this individual that he came with was stabbing Jonna and Jason inside the apartment.
But as detectives keep questioning him, they say his story just isn't adding up.
There was nothing to indicate at all that Jason or Jonna were involved in drugs, so it was very inconsistent with what we knew about the victims.
Jonna was never involved in drugs. She was very straight-laced.
Investigators take a closer look at Percival's shoes that they believe might have been at the crime scene.
We sent those off for analysis, and the analysis came back.
It was not an exact match.
Those were not the shoes. This was another dead end.
Michael Percival was ultimately cleared.
Why would anybody want to cop to a crime they didn't commit?
We learned through the investigation that Michael Percival liked attention.
Now, back at square one, investigators are re-examining the case.
There's this one person detectives keep coming back to, and it's Jonna's roommate, Jason Amami.
While evidence such as the CDs, a baseball cap, and that bloody shoe print suggest a third person might have been in the apartment, detectives still have questions for Jason.
We wanted to 100% make sure that Jason wasn't involved in this in any way. Even if there was another person involved, that he didn't let them in.
So police ask him to take a polygraph test. He agrees, and the test is videotaped.
Are you ready to take this test? Sure. All right. If you would,
Let me take off my sweatshirt.
yeah, if you would.
One of the main reasons that we asked Jason to take a polygraph is just simply to see like how cooperative he would be with it.
Do you know for sure who caused the death of Jonna Berry?
No.
Did you have prior knowledge that the person who stabbed Johnny would be at your apartment that night?
No.
But then things take a sudden turn in the interview room when the polygrapher begins to interrogate Jason.
Jason, I want you to listen to me.
Yeah.
You know, I think you're a smart boy, but you did hard on that test.
Did I really?
You really did. Turn your chair around. Let's talk.
Yeah.
Why do you think you failed the test?
I don't know. I was 100% truthful.
The polygrapher basically started interviewing Jason Amami and accusing him of being the killer.
But I've been doing this for a long time, and there's something that you have not told me. Did you stab that girl?
No. I did not stab her at all.
Did you get just angry, perhaps, over something that she said or something that happened there,
Never.
and you just lashed out?
Never.
All I'm trying to determine is the truth.
And I'm getting
My point, Jason, that you haven't told it to me.
Where am I lying then? I have told you the 100% truth.
It was the first time we really saw Jason react emotionally in the sense you could tell he was very angered and offended by the question.
Are you saying I did it?
I'm saying it certainly looks like it.
It was confrontational. The polygrapher was not just asking questions, but was essentially involved in a heated interrogation.
100%. I don't have anything to do with this. I don't care what that box says. I voluntarily took this. If I had something to hide, why would I take this test? Why would I get DNA? Why would I do this?
Calm down.
I'm getting mad here. I ain't
You
getting
don't
up
need
to
to get
do
mad.
this.
Calm down.
I feel like a suspect
Calm
now.
down. Calm down.
He's very, very upset. It took a little bit to get him calmed down.
Police are reviewing Jason's test results when they discover there's an error.
The polygrapher said that he failed the test. When we had 2 other polygraphers look at the results, they basically said that he passed the test.
Besides passing the polygraph, detectives also aren't able to link that bloody shoe print or partial fingerprint on the knife to Jason, so he's ultimately cleared.
Jason was originally from Colorado, and shortly after, he relocated back to Colorado.
Michael and I traveled to Colorado and visited with him. He answered our questions and had time for us, and I'm sure this has affected Jason's life too.
Jason has not only suffered the trauma of the attack, but he's also facing public scrutiny and innuendo.
Jason was a good kid who got caught up in this and the circumstances of it and made a decision of flight that was involuntary and took a lot of heat and a lot of flack for that, and has.
Weeks after the murder, a new bombshell development when lab results come back from blood at the crime scene.
There was Jonna's DNA, Jason Amamy's DNA, and there was an unknown DNA inside and outside of the apartment.
Could this DNA belong to the killer? Detectives are racing to find out.
That was the key to getting the person that did this.
Wow, they're going to be able to find who murdered her.
I see memories of Jonna everywhere in the house, right?
Yes. These are Jonna's little baby shoes.
They rest here?
That's where they stay here all the time, yeah.
Even though years have gone by since their daughter's murder,
this is my pride and joy. I love this.
In nearly every corner of every room, mementos of Jonna.
This is Jonna's room. We call it Jonna's room.
Jonna's room.
Still. And I still have her wedding gown.
You still have
Still
it?
have her wedding gown.
All these years
after
later.
20 years.
This is it. That's beautiful.
This is the dress, her wedding gown.
All the beading. Oh, look at the train.
She looked beautiful in it. Yeah, it's 20 years old. She had picked out a wedding band for Jason, and we bought it. So Jonna's dad wears the wedding band. He wears it every day.
Well, still got it. She worked so hard and did so many things. That was a small gesture.
I'm glad that she got to experience being engaged and planning a wedding.
Weeks after Jonna's murder, investigators still don't have a suspect. But then a break in the case. DNA results have just come in.
There were 3 DNA samples found at the scene: Jonna's, Jason, and an unknown male perpetrator.
The unknown sample, it was found in Jonna's bedroom. It was also found in the living room, and it was found on the back door and outside on the back deck. And we know that they exited out the rear of the apartment because the unknown DNA is not only on the back door, but it leads down the back stairwell. We found no unknown DNA on the front door or leading out the front door.
Detectives also make a key discovery on the murder weapon.
There was an unknown DNA that was found on the knife.
The race is now on to find out who the DNA belongs to.
We thought they're going to be able to find who murdered her.
But after running that unknown DNA through a law enforcement database, investigators get some disappointing news.
The DNA comes back to us. There's no one in the system that comes back to.
They don't know who it belongs to.
It seemed unusual to us that a person would commit a crime with such violence if they didn't have some sort of other violent history.
They ran the DNA and no match.
No match.
While meeting with investigators, Joan learned something else that shocks her.
Tennessee doesn't take DNA if you're arrested for a violent crime, only if you're convicted. I was absolutely shocked, and I even said, wow, well, that needs to be changed.
And that's exactly what Joan does. For more than 2 years, hoping it might lead to her daughter's killer, she pushes for a new DNA law.
I would go to the Capitol and introduce myself and ask them if they would support the DNA law.
We're talking about any violent crime such as murder, rape, even robbery. Those people arrested would have to submit their DNA.
Joan is a fighter, and she rose up like a phoenix.
Jonna Berry was her name, and her parents, Joan is sitting in the back of the chamber here with me today, have been on a crusade.
Well, a victory today for family and friends of murdered UT student Jonna Berry.
I think this is a very important bill for every citizen in the state of Tennessee.
You pushed, and you got this law passed in Tennessee. You changed the law.
Yes, we did.
Jonna's law.
It is. It's called the Jonna Berry Act.
But ironically, even after changing the law, Joan discovers there's still no match with that unknown DNA in her daughter's case. How did you find the strength to keep pushing?
And this was the most important thing in the world to me, to find out who murdered Jonna.
When it comes to this mother wanting to find answers, she would stop at nothing.
To keep her daughter Jonna's name out in the public, Joan goes on national talk shows.
Joan, what has it been like all these years?
There's no words to explain what we've gone through.
She even goes on the Montel Williams show seeking a psychic's help.
Really need to know, we need to know who did this to Jonna. We need answers.
Heartbroken warrior. That's who Joan is.
That was my prayer always, to have an answer. And I believed in my heart that God would answer my prayers.
Even if it took a while?
Mm-hmm. And one day he said, "What are you worried about? It's gonna be okay."
As the investigation into Jonna's murder went on, it really expanded. Thousands of tips came in.
We would follow up with the tips that we would get. Every person that we came in contact with, we asked them to voluntarily commit to a DNA sample.
We looked into any person that we possibly could, but it was just dead end after dead end.
Then, about 2.5 years after Jonna Berry's death,
So in this lab, we actually have dual purpose.
a forensic scientist makes a key discovery.
I said, oh, wow, this might be something.
Our chief of detectives called and said that we all needed to get together. He needed to talk to us.
And he's like, get here as soon as you can.
A family still looking to track down a murderer tonight, nearly 3 years after their daughter and a UT co-ed is killed in her apartment.
The main thing that you're going on is DNA evidence.
Yes, we had the unknown DNA. It was really our only connection to the person that was connected to this crime.
We thought, will we ever have this case solved? Then the case makes a turn. Someone called in a tip after looking at the composite sketch, and they said, that looks like someone I know. And that someone is Taylor Olson.
Looks very similar.
Yes.
Taylor Lee Olson is 22 years old. He lived about 15 minutes from the crime scene, and he was known to have committed some petty crimes, also harassment, theft.
He also had an outstanding warrant for his arrest out of another jurisdiction. We arrested him, asked him about the crime.
Does he present in any way at all to you that he might have a connection to this?
He said that he didn't know anything about the crime. He voluntarily gave us his DNA.
Given that Taylor Olson only had smaller petty crimes, he didn't really fit the profile of who we were looking for.
We just thought, hey, you know, this is just another person that looks like the composite sketch.
Olson's DNA is then sent to a lab to compare it to the unknown DNA found at the crime scene.
It comes back, it is a match to the blood of that unknown person found at the crime scene.
So in this lab, we actually have dual
Jennifer
purpose.
Millsaps, the forensic scientist at the lab, made the match.
I looked at it a couple times. I wasn't too sure, wanted to make sure that it actually was a match and I hadn't confused something. So we actually ran it twice to verify it.
That must have been a big moment.
Oh yeah, it was huge.
Amazing. Probably one of the happiest moments of my life.
We were all very excited, high-fiving each other, celebrating.
Gave Brad a big hug or something because we couldn't believe it finally happened.
You get a phone call. There's a match.
I couldn't believe what I was hearing, so I said, I want to put you on the speakerphone because I wanted Mike to hear too, because I didn't trust what I was hearing. It was the blessing that God had answered my prayer.
So when we come back to town, we learn that Taylor Olson has a couple more outstanding warrants for his arrest, a burglary and a theft.
At that time, detectives don't have a warrant to arrest him for murder.
So we go into mode of looking for him and trying to locate him on those arrest warrants.
He was found, ironically, in the mall where Jonna worked, in the parking lot of the mall.
He was inside the trunk of a car. He was trying to hide from the officers. So we took him into custody.
You had your suspect.
We had a suspect. We wanted to give him an opportunity to explain why his DNA or his blood was found there in the crime scene.
What's up, Taylor? How you doing, man? How you doing?
It was very important to us that he didn't have any upfront knowledge that we were going to talk to him about Jonna or the DNA.
Do you know why you're here?
Pretty much.
What for?
Guys are accusing me of breaking into his house and stealing a bunch of steal.
Had you ever heard about the Jonna Berry homicide case before?
Mm-hmm.
So you'd never seen Jonna Berry before?
Like, in person?
Yeah.
No, I've never met her.
Detectives decide to confront Olson with the DNA evidence.
After I sent your sample off to the TBI lab, they got us a report back. It's a match for your DNA being in Jonna Berry's apartment.
Is this a joke?
No.
Like, I really don't know anything like it.
Trust me, it's not a joke. Is there any reason that you can explain your blood being in Jonna Berry's apartment?
My blood was in Jonna Berry's apartment.
Right.
You're serious?
Yeah.
He was very adamant that he was not there. He denied any involvement.
You think killed someone?
I'm just talking about the evidence, is what I'm talking about.
I've never killed anyone.
We knew he was there, of course, because of the blood, his DNA being there.
So we're here to give you an opportunity.
Okay.
To, tell us what happened, why you were there,
Dude.
And why your blood was there.
I have never been there. I don't know killer. I haven't killed no one. I've never killed anybody. Never.
There was no doubt in my mind at that point that this was the person that we'd been looking for.
We have your blood there.
So I'm pretty much huh?
We're giving you the opportunity to explain.
I don't have an explanation.
What happened?
Finally, we were just like, hey, he's just going to keep going and going with his story, and nothing's ever going to change.
It almost seemed like he thought that he was going to get away with it.
Olson is questioned 3 days in a row. And on the final day, investigators are about to make a breakthrough.
Taylor, I've been sitting out here in the hallway listening to this that you're talking about, and I'm just about sick of it. Why did you do this to this girl?
And finally he said, okay, I was there.
I can't believe this happened.
You got the knife away from that person? Went kind of crazy?
Have a seat now, Chair. You want both free?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is your opportunity to tell because this is your last chance. Your last chance to get your voice out there. You tell your side of it. We already know her side.
On his third day of taped interrogation, Taylor Olson continues to deny any knowledge of Jonna Berry's murder.
Why don't you tell me what happened when you were inside?
I don't know.
He would just say, I don't have an explanation, don't have an explanation. So finally, we just said, like, enough's enough.
Taylor, I've been sitting out here in the hallway listening to this you're talking about, and I'm just about sick of it. You know what happened to this girl? Look at this. You were there. You know what happened to her. We know you were there. The evidence shows you were there. Why did you do this to this girl? Huh? Why'd you do that?
And that's when you really saw Taylor change. Like once he saw the crime scene photo, this is what happened, this is what you did. Like, you need to talk about this.
Finally, with evidence of the crime staring him right in the face, Taylor Olson begins sharing his own account of the night of the murder.
I just didn't understand what happened. I just
Did you,
thought I got too
did you
drunk.
have blood on you? Were you cut?
I don't remember if I was cut.
Eventually, more details begin trickling in as Olson says he was out that night with a friend named Noah Cox.
Me and Noah went out and jacked a CD player out of a car. And we kind of got lost from each other. And someone came out when we were breaking into cars and yelled at us. Ran off. I don't know where the hell he was.
Now, wandering around on his own, Olson says he suddenly found himself outside Jana's apartment.
He says he goes up back steps of Jana and Jason Amami's apartment.
I was looking for some keys. And then someone said, "Who are you?" or "What are you doing?" or something. And I was like, chill out. And then I just heard like a yell, and then I just felt the pain.
He goes in Jana's bedroom. Jana wakes up. He says they get into a confrontation and she has a knife, stabs him on the arm, fought with her over the knife.
She did fight back hard. She fought for her life. That's why the stabbing kept going on and on.
You got the knife away from that person and just went kind of crazy?
Yeah. I guess they were sleeping with it. I just freaked out.
As for Jason Amami, Olson says he had no idea that another person was in the apartment.
I didn't even remember anything about the guy until the news said it was 2 people. I didn't realize everyone got hurt like that.
Did you just go in there and things just went wrong?
I really don't know her, man. I've never met her.
There's no reason for him to select that apartment other than the fact that it was the first apartment he came to that had an open door.
And Jana, according to her mom, was a stickler for locking the door every night. Nobody knows why the door was unlocked on that night.
After nearly 3 years of unanswered questions, with investigators looking at people in Jana's life and complete strangers alike, Olson's confession is startling. And to wind up having a random person, a break-in, nobody who's really connected to her, that's not common, is it?
No, not really. It wasn't. It was a surprise to us, and I think everybody else was kind of surprised too.
Now that Knox County detectives know Taylor Olson's full story, he prepares to tell his mom and sister the truth.
Would you rather talk to your mom on the telephone, or would you rather talk to her in person?
I'd like to see her.
She really is being a mom. You kind of have to feel for her. What's going on? What has my son done?
What happened, Tay? The truth. Taylor, I love you.
It was an accident.
Are you sure, Taylor? Taylor, I need to know. It's okay. I want to know the truth, okay?
I can tell you.
Okay. If you'd rather have an attorney, that's okay too. Did they offer you one?
Yes.
When did you tell him the truth? How did that come about?
Because my blood's on the knife. And my blood's like in
Then
the
why did they
back door.
let you go? Did they get the DNA back? Okay, and it matches? Taylor, okay. Listen, I'm gonna help you. I want to make sure that this is for real and that you did it. No, I don't know.
And at that point, you feel their brokenness over this horrific crime.
Taylor, I want you to know something. I want you to start praying because there is a God. Do you hear? And He loves you and will forgive if this is true.
I'm so sorry, Mom.
After coming clean to his family, Olson now faces the press.
Did you mean to kill her? Why did you do it? Was it an accident? But you stabbed her 26 times.
And his look was one of complete surprise, shock, baffled.
He told reporters it was an accident.
How's that an accident? Accidents happen one time, not 20 plus. No, that angered me that it was an accident.
Well, after 33 months of wondering and waiting, Jonna Berry's parents finally came face to face with the man charged with killing their daughter.
22-year-old Taylor Olson, he's facing 7 counts, including first-degree murder.
But just as Taylor Olson is about to go on trial, he does something that utterly rocks everyone involved in the case. You finally are getting to court, and then you get shocking news.
Our top story tonight. This man, 22-year-old Taylor Lee Olson of Knoxville, is behind bars. Now, today's announcement providing some relief to Jonna's family, who have spent years and countless hours searching for her killer.
What was that like for you to see him and to come face to face with him in court?
You look at that person and it's like, I know you're not supposed to hate anybody, but I hated him.
Cameras were not allowed inside the courtroom for today's hearing, but inside, 22-year-old Taylor Lee Olson did not enter a plea when he was arraigned.
Olson faces a 7-count indictment, including 3 counts of felony murder and 1 count of first-degree murder.
They're planning for a trial, and then we get word Taylor Lee Olson is dead. He hanged himself in his jail cell.
I got a call the Monday after Easter that he had been found in his jail cell, that he had fashioned a ligature with sheets.
You finally are getting to court, and then you get shocking news. He's taken his life.
When I got the news, I became very upset. I even cried.
What were the tears for?
Just tears of relief, because we don't have to fight the system.
But Joan Berry wants confirmation with her own eyes that her daughter's killer is really gone.
I called the DA's office and I said, I know you probably think I'm just a crazy old woman, but I want to see him dead, just the way I had to look at my daughter, dead.
Joan and Mike wanted that. We met in the conference room in the district attorney's office and showed them photographs of Olson's autopsy.
To some people it might sound cruel, but I think it gave me some closure.
I think that the Berrys needed to see the photos of Taylor Olson because they were deprived of the right of a trial.
Though there's no trial, the case isn't exactly over, because in writings left behind in his jail cell, Taylor Olson tries to argue his innocence from beyond the grave.
I read a bunch of letters that said, I didn't do it. Then hung himself. That's a coward's admission of guilt.
Olson writes a long note called The Story, where he tries to shift blame by bringing back a familiar name.
Taylor Olson said he didn't do it and that Noah Cox, his friend, is the one who committed the crime.
Noah Cox was the individual that Taylor said he was with when they were breaking into vehicles and were separated.
In an audio recording with investigators, Noah Cox denies breaking into cars with Olson that night, and he's adamant that he was never in Jonna Berry's apartment.
Mr. Cox, were you present in the apartment when Jonna Berry was murdered?
No, sir. The whole story just really doesn't make sense.
We had talked to Noah Cox. He had submitted to a DNA sample. His DNA didn't come back as a match to the unknown sample.
There was no evidence showing that Noah Cox was ever in that apartment.
There's no other blood samples, fingerprints, nothing to indicate that anyone but Taylor was there.
Taylor Olson's partial fingerprint was ultimately found on the murder weapon. Was there any part of you that felt any sadness for
I
the
felt
outcome?
sad for his family. 2 families' lives have been ruined, you know, painfully. I'll never see my daughter again. Now they'll never see their son again.
Through their pain, Joan and Mike Berry stay busy, focusing on the laws they've changed and all the victims they've helped. And now here we are at the TBI, where there is big change.
There is change.
There's now a memorial to Jonna at the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation's Knoxville DNA lab.
Long after we're gone, she'll still be helping others.
To be able to have made that kind of change in a state law, that must be gratifying, even in the midst of your heartbreak.
It is very gratifying, but it's also sad that this had to happen to my daughter.
And when Joan and Mike aren't tirelessly fighting for victims' rights,
every senator vote on the bill. Every senator vote has every senator voted.
You do remember that one?
August the 26th or 21st birthday.
they take time to savor the bright, wonderful memories their daughter left behind, including a note written to each of them on her high school graduation day.
I still have the letter, so I'd like to read it to you, and it says, "Dear Mom, I want to thank you for being my mom. You have always been the one I could turn to, no matter what. The only true friend that I've ever had. I only hope that someday that I'll be a mom as good as you are. I hope that I have made you proud, and I hope I will continue to make you proud in the future. I love you, your daughter, Jonna."
I love you guys.
She loved life. You know, I can still see her in her little red convertible with the top down and her ponytail blowing in the wind.
Jonna, smile for the camera, girl.
Jonna's dead, but she's not dead in my heart. I plant flowers in her memory. Sometimes I'm outside, I think butterflies remind me of her.
So she's still with you?
She is.
Such emotional words from a mother, David. After her daughter's murder, Joan Berry actually started a support group to help families and victims of violent crime.
And Deborah, as you know, she also continues to advocate for DNA arrest laws. Today, 34 states require that DNA is collected after an arrest. That's our program for tonight. I'm David Muir.
And I'm Deborah Roberts. From all of us here at 2020 and ABC News, good night.
The last thing they would expect is to find a suitcase with a human body in it.
The big question is, how the hell did he get there?
They were crazy in love at first, but it quickly became tumultuous. There were infidelities, they'd go back and forth, they'd fight. I think they liked the drama of it.
And the next thing coming out of his mouth is, "When I get home, I'm gonna kill you, I'm gonna smash your face in." He said he was leaving and he wasn't coming back.
Were you ever angry enough to want to see him dead?
There were times I wanted him gone, but gone doesn't mean dead.
And Mel just said, "Well, I'm a single mom now, and now I've just got to get on with my life." I said, "Well, no, the next thing is we've got to figure out who did this to him." And after I got off the phone, I said, "She did it."
They couldn't find any forensic evidence whatsoever to establish that this was a crime scene.
Do you still insist that you're innocent?
Absolutely. I still feel like, how could somebody think that I did that?
I think she did not actually commit the crime.
it turns out it isn't the end of this story.
My name is Megan Sachs. I'm a criminologist at Fairleigh Dickinson University. In simplest terms, criminology is the scientific study of what causes crime and how the criminal justice system responds to crime.
I've written about 25 true crime books over the years, and I think Melanie Maguire's is perhaps one of the most interesting ones and baffling.
This is Melanie Maguire, arrested today minutes after dropping off her children at daycare.
Melanie Maguire, a New Jersey nurse, was accused of killing her husband, cutting up his body and throwing it into the Chesapeake Bay.
In 2007, what was being called the suitcase murder trial was generating an enormous amount of media attention, not just in New Jersey, but all across the country.
3 bizarre discoveries, 3 separate suitcases, all containing human remains.
A woman who was on trial for her very life. She says the real truth behind the crime has never been revealed.
With no history of violence and no apparent motive for murder, could she really have done it?
She was this beautiful young nurse, and they were this seemingly normal middle-class couple, and the murder happened in such a grisly way.
The idea that this beautiful nurse could have actually killed her husband and then cut him up is just incredible.
Of course, there were the salacious aspects.
Mrs. Maguire is a registered nurse, and prosecutors say she had an affair with a doctor.
She didn't fit the profile, I guess, of a murderer. Over the years, students and colleagues of ours have come to me and said, you know, Melanie Maguire proclaims her innocence and would love to tell her story. I started thinking, oh, maybe there is a little more to this case than what you just see on the surface. And then the idea of a podcast came up, and I was all in.
On direct appeal, we examine the murder conviction of Melanie Maguire following a highly publicized trial. Looking at the evidence that was presented and the evidence that may have seemed insignificant at the time, we form our own conclusion about Melanie's guilt.
We here at ABC have our own history with the Melanie Maguire case. Back in 2007, ABC's Cynthia McFadden had the first on-camera interview with the mother of 2 on trial for murdering her husband.
Who is the Melanie Maguire you hope the jury knows?
The one who tried to take care of everybody, who didn't make the smartest decisions, but admitted to those mistakes to the people she trusted most, but did not admit what she's accused of.
I have been incarcerated for 12 and a half, going on 13 years now.
Do you still insist that you're innocent?
Absolutely.
You're sitting here a wrongfully convicted person.
Correct. Absolutely.
And what have those years been like?
I tell people it's not as bad as you think in some ways, and it's so much worse than I could ever articulate in others. After all these years, I still feel hurt. I still feel bothered. I still feel like, how could somebody think that I did that?
This whole saga begins on May 5th, 2004, with an odd discovery in Virginia Beach.
Early morning, a couple of fishermen and their kids are out on a boat by the Chesapeake Bay.
Me and my friend Don Connors was going to go out fishing, and we both had days off, and D, or Don, we called him D, he said keep his kids out of school, we're going to take them fishing. So everybody was excited. We went right out through this bridge here, and if you keep on going, you'll run right into the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel.
The Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel is about 17.5 miles long. It really is quite astonishing. It connects the eastern shore of Virginia to Virginia Beach.
Has 2 tunnels for 2 shipping channels, and once you get on the other side, you go north, you're up into Maryland, Delaware, New Jersey. So we went out there and anchored off of Fisherman's Island, and we were just doing some fishing.
And suddenly, one notices that a suitcase has floated by.
We wheeled the boat around, pulled up alongside it. I immediately thought it probably blew off of a car, you know, and off the luggage rack or something. Dee and his son had reached over and were trying to pull it up in. It had some weight to it, so I stopped the boat, reached in and helped him pull that thing up in there. And laid it in the floor of the boat.
They found a dark green Kenneth Cole suitcase in pretty good condition that was apparently part of a luggage set of 3.
They put it on board, and the little boy with them is very, very excited. He thinks it's buried treasure, so he wants to open it.
The contents were covered with a thick trash bag, like a hefty bag or something. And I said, uh-oh. I was a little bit nervous then when I saw the black bags in there. So turned to say something to Dee, and while I was talking to Dee, the young boy reached down and ripped open the plastic trash bags. There was no doubt of what it was. It was a set of human legs.
There's a pair of male legs from the knee down, look very fresh, and they recoil in horror.
I looked down there and said, oh my gracious. So I closed the bag back up, and I dialed 911.
I was out on patrol in the Chesapeake Bay when I received a radio call. I made arrangements with him to meet me, and he transferred a suitcase over to my boat.
I handed him the luggage, and he seemed surprised. He goes, what do you want me to do with that? And I said, open it up.
I was pretty shocked. I'd never seen a suitcase with body parts in it before. There really wasn't any smell. They actually looked kind of fresh.
The first suitcase being found was big news. It's not, a common find by any means, especially in this area.
This is an alarming story. Everybody wanted to know who the man in the suitcase was.
We kind of figured there had to be other suitcases with other parts in it.
After the initial shock of them finding the suitcase, everyone was just waiting for what was going to wash up next. Chesapeake Bay area, there's a lot of boaters, there are bird watchers, there's Fisherman's Island, a nature sanctuary. This is really kind of a tourist, a fun area.
People are going there to relax or going with their families. The last thing they would expect is to find a suitcase with a human body in it.
It was the start of the summer tourist season, which is huge for Virginia Beach, and getting that kind of negative publicity of bodies washing up in suitcases was something they did not need. 6 days later, the student was on Fisherman's Island in the middle of the Chesapeake Bay, which is a nature preserve. And she saw a dark green Kenneth Cole suitcase.
She was curious what could be contained inside, and she actually pulled a little bit of the black trash bag out of the suitcase. There was such a strong odor of decomposition that she immediately stopped and notified the refuge workers.
The police, they'd been expecting this because after the first Kenneth Cole bag with the legs, they suspected there was going to be more.
It was transported to the medical examiner's office in Norfolk, and that's where we actually viewed what the contents inside.
Inside this suitcase would be the torso and the head of a male. The torso is still attached with the arms and the head.
The head was wrapped in what looked like a medical blanket.
The face was somewhat identifiable, but it had been submerged for a while, so extremely bloated.
The medical examiner is able to determine that the victim's been shot multiple times. There are a couple of gunshot wounds in the torso area and one through the head.
There were 2 bullets that were recovered from the body, wad cutter bullets. And wad cutter bullets are not typically used by the average person, but they are used for target practice.
And it became a very big local story.
A student discovered a suitcase near Fisherman Island. Inside, a human head.
It's getting a lot of coverage.
It's the second suitcase in a week found near the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel, and the second one containing body parts.
And everybody was waiting for the rest of the body to turn up.
Well, the third suitcase was found on May 16, 2004 in the water by a fisherman.
He saw the suitcase floating in the water. This third suitcase that had been in the water the longest did have some growth on it from floating in the water for so long.
This suitcase contained the pelvis, so from the waist down to above the knees. Authorities realize they have to figure out who it is.
Anytime you find a unknown body, the first thing you're going to do is look into missing person cases to see if the profile matches anyone who's currently missing.
Because of the naval bases in the area, they're checking military records. They're checking everything they can possibly think of to figure out who this person is.
One of the policemen working on it came up with the idea of getting a sketch artist in.
I immediately took photographs to our sketch artist, and she was able to do a sketch for us, and we eventually released it to the media.
We're hoping maybe this will give us an edge and maybe identify him sooner.
Right now, he's just
John Doe.
May the 21st, Sue sees the picture on TV of a sketch that they had done to find out who this person was.
Sue had been getting out of the shower one morning. The television was on, and as she was getting out, toweling off, she looks at the TV.
This is a sketch of the body that washed ashore near the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel this month.
He belongs to somebody. I mean, he's got loved ones.
She thinks, oh my God, that looks like Bill.
Sue was pretty sure that it was Bill McGuire. This is John and Sue Rice, Bill McGuire's good friends. Bill and John had been friends since their early Navy days. Bill was friends with Sue as well. Melanie knew Sue. The couples had vacationed together.
Sue immediately calls her husband to take a look, and he's not so sure it's Bill. But Sue's convinced it is, in fact, and says, please call Crime Stoppers.
He was very good friends with Mr. McGuire. He told me that Mr. McGuire lived in Woodbridge, New Jersey. He was married to Melanie McGuire, and they had 2 small children.
He wanted to know more about the dynamics of Bill, why I thought it could be Bill. And the only way that I thought it could be Bill is that, yeah, he's missing too.
John Rice had spoke to Cindy Lagash, who is William McGuire's sister.
I got a call from Cindy. She said, John, is Billy there? And I said, no, he's not. What's going on? And she said, well, Bill and Melanie got in an argument and he left and he hadn't been heard from.
He said he was leaving and he wasn't coming back. My husband was full of bluster when it came to stuff like that. He would say things like that all the time. I didn't actually believe it was the last time I was ever going to see my husband.
William McGuire had, in fact, vanished. Mr. Rice and his wife, Mrs. Rice, eventually agreed to come down to the police department in Virginia Beach and view some photos.
Bill had a little red mark right here, and that's what I kept zoning in on when I saw the picture. That's exactly what I zoned in on. I mean, I've known Bill for 22 years. I kept seeing that, and I was pretty certain that it was Bill.
Once we had a name and approximate age, we ran him through our computer system.
He ran a check on Bill McGuire, and he found that McGuire had been arrested in Virginia for a reckless driving charge in the 1980s.
His fingerprints were on file already, which made it a lot easier, and they're very quickly able to confirm that the fingerprints matched.
The man in the suitcases was identified as 39-year-old William McGuire of Woodbridge, New Jersey.
So according to Melanie, she just thinks her husband is missing, but she is about to get the news that will change her life forever.
And he said, I'm sorry to tell you, ma'am, that William is deceased. And I just burst into tears.
Now they've solved the mystery of who the man in the suitcase is. The big question is, how the hell did he get there? The Melanie McGuire story is centered around New Jersey. They lived in the working class part of New Jersey where The Sopranos took place, which was perhaps the hottest show at the time.
Woke up this morning, got yourself again.
Melanie is a Jersey girl, born and raised there. Her parents are Linda and Michael Caporero.
She's a great, great daughter, mother, friend, full of life, fun-loving, a good girl, never in trouble, never in trouble.
Always trying to help people.
She's working in the restaurants in Jersey. She's a waitress, and she met Bill McGuire. He was also a server.
Bill was known as the rude waiter because he would speed people up in a jocular way, but they loved it, and he would ask for the rude waiter.
What was he like?
Funny, clever. He had a big heart when he wanted to. He wanted all the right things.
He was very, very loyal. He was a tremendous friend. When I first met Bill, I didn't know what to make of him because he was really a practical joker and whatnot, and I thought, well, this guy could probably get on somebody's nerves with all this. But he was so funny, he just kind of overcame whatever resistance you might have to him.
Melanie was a fertility nurse when I met her. It's just so caring, so nurturing.
She was working with women who were going through really tough times, trying to get pregnant. She was very compassionate, and her patients really loved her.
What made you a good nurse?
Type A personality. The way I looked at it, I was not going to be happy with anything less than the total comfort level of my patients.
In 1998, Bill called John and I and told us that he wanted to bring Melanie down to meet us. Melanie, she's a really nice person to be around. Physically, she's beautiful. She's very smart.
She had a lot of the same sense of humor that Bill had. When Bill was making jokes, Melanie would be right in there.
He liked to razz people. She would razz him right back. He really was crazy about her.
What was your relationship with Bill like in the beginning?
In the beginning, it was the challenge, it was the chase. It was, we had a bit of a tempestuous relationship even before we got married. We would break up, get back together.
Bill and Melanie dated for quite a while. They were crazy in love at first, but it quickly became tumultuous. There were infidelities, they'd go back and forth, they'd fight. I think they liked the drama of it.
I think she thought she could make a difference in his life. I think she thought that she could maybe change him, make him happy. She truly did love him.
You guys want some more champagne? Yeah. All right, let me go get a bottle. Because there's nothing in there, is there?
They got married in 1999. It was probably one of the most extravagant weddings we've ever been to.
Mr. and Mrs. William McGuire. Melanie on her wedding day looked absolutely gorgeous, angelic, just perfect.
Both Bill and Melanie seemed like they couldn't have been happier.
She was a little naughty.
He was marrying a girl that he absolutely loved in a way that maybe he hadn't loved anybody before.
Bill, did you put your hand up? This is the last time Bill's going to have the upper hand.
Bill McGuire got a $65,000 a year job with the New Jersey Institute of Technology.
Bill and Melanie settle into a rented townhouse in Woodbridge, New Jersey.
Woodbridge is a sprawling, densely populated township on the suburban end of New Jersey's industrial flatlands. If you're going down I-95, you're taking exit 11 to get off to Woodbridge.
We were both happy, new parents, and then things changed drastically.
He had a dual personality. He could be very likable, and then on the other hand, he'd be very calculating, manipulate you.
He had always had issues with gambling, and he would go through periods where he would go down to Atlantic City a lot.
There were times that he would just take off to AC and gamble, and you wouldn't hear from him, wouldn't know what was going on.
He found he could make some money gambling. There were good times with that, and there were bad times. And there were a couple of times I put my foot down, and I said, that's it, no more. So then he would get involved in the stock market. He wanted what he wanted, and he couldn't get it fast enough. And with that came frustration, and eventually that frustration became directed at me. There was one particular argument over the phone where he had gotten stopped for a traffic ticket. He had an absolutely atrocious driving record. So I start to argue back, and the next thing coming out of his mouth is, when I get home, I'm gonna kill you, I'm gonna smash your face in.
It's very difficult for me to think back on it because I actually drove off in the middle of the night, and I had left and I should have stayed gone.
Why did you stay?
I wasn't strong enough to leave.
Did you love him?
I did, and even though, now at this point, bear in mind, I'm having an affair.
What appealed to you about Brad Miller?
He was just very, very tender. I really tried to fight it, but I couldn't fight it.
Life for the McGuires is getting a little more complicated, and then one night, it all erupts.
Bill was probably the most streetwise person I've ever known, and I can tell you he never saw it coming.
Melanie is loving, caring, funny, considerate. We just clicked right away, to the point that I asked her to be in my wedding when I got married.
Love is always patient and kind. It is never jealous. Love is never boastful or conceited, and is not resentful. Love takes no pleasure in other people's sins, but delights in the truth.
In June 2001, the McGuires were already married for a few years. And even though there was some friction in the marriage, Melanie McGuire decided to have another child.
Little does her husband know just how ill-timed this pregnancy is. Not only is Melanie about to have their second child, she's also having an affair.
Dr. Bradley Miller was a partner in RMA Associates, and Melanie was working as one of his nurses.
He was so kind. I'd come back to my desk after a long meeting with a patient, and there'd be lunch sitting on my desk waiting for me. You know, there was always a little bit of flirtation, banter back and forth.
Melanie was about 38 weeks pregnant, and things changed between her and Dr. Miller.
I was about to go out on maternity leave, and I was sitting actually in his office at his desk. I just mentioned I have a pinched nerve in my neck, and he put his hands on my shoulders and started to rub my back. I really tried to fight it because this was not gonna be good. This was not gonna be good for anybody, but I couldn't fight it.
After Melanie came back from maternity leave, she and Dr. Miller started a full-blown affair, and it seemed like they were falling in love with each other, although they were both married with young children.
Shortly after my second son was born, that's when things began the final descent downhill, if you will.
Melanie and Bill moved to the Woodbridge apartment. This is a townhome. They don't own it, they're renting it.
He was constantly looking at homes. He wanted to end up buying a house before he turned 40.
He did want to move down here to Virginia Beach. We took pictures of houses in our neighborhood, but Melanie just would not hear of it.
They ended up putting a really sizable deposit down on a very nice home in New Jersey.
It was a very nice house. It had quite a bit of land. It was a $500,000 home.
It was very contradictory as she's becoming closer to Dr. Miller, but she's going along with Bill's idea of buying a house.
The marriage wasn't going well at all. So why were you buying this $500,000 house together then?
The idea for me was we had a chunk of money, cash, that we were putting down on this house. In the past, we'd come to points where we had been in similar situations, and ultimately something would happen and he would go and gamble the money away. I figured this at least was an investment.
On April 28th, they're due to close on the house at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and she's in constant touch with Dr. Miller, who's pleading with her not to buy the house. He wants to be with Melanie, and he sees a future life with her.
And Melanie told him that, not to worry about it, it's gonna be okay, I'll take care of it.
After they close on the house, they go back to their rented townhouse. Bill is so excited. He calls John Rice. John said that Bill had never been happier. The last person Melanie speaks to that night is Dr. Miller. She tells him, look, we've closed on the house. Bill's had some red wine. He's asleep on the couch, but when he wakes up, we're going to sort this out, and I'm going to tell him I want a divorce.
Melanie described the events that would happen later on as a big fight.
You and Bill had a horrible fight, yes?
Correct. We fell asleep on the couch, woke up early morning hours, and it was never a bad time for an argument. We're talking probably 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. And it starts on the house. I settled for that house. The hell are you talking about? You settled for that house. It's a $500,000 house. That's not what I wanted.
Melanie says that Bill turned around and said, what I really wanted was a house in Virginia for cheaper, but you refused to let us do that, and so I have to settle. And she says this turns into a very heated argument.
From there, things became more physical.
How physical? In what way?
He shoved a dryer sheet in my mouth. He had a thing about dryer sheets.
The story that Melanie tells about a fight that seems to escalate over a dryer sheet is the same story she told us back when we first spoke with her.
We're still arguing, and there's the laundry basket, and there's a dryer sheet just hanging out of one of the baby's sleeves. He hated them. He thought it was lazy that I wouldn't stand there and put in the liquid fabric softener, and yeah. And it went out of control. This was the type of mother I was, that I would leave this sheet in there for my baby to possibly choke on. Before I know it, I'm up against the wall, and the dryer sheet is being shoved into my throat. And then he just smacked me.
In the face?
Yeah, open hand, because he probably would have broken my cheek if it had been a closed fist. And I looked down, and there's my 2-year-old.
I grabbed the baby and went to the bathroom right behind me and shut the door. I just wanted away from him at that point. He said he was leaving and he wasn't coming back, and I could tell my children why they didn't have a father.
Did he say this to you through the bathroom door?
Yeah, through the bathroom door the entire time. I imagine he was packing things and leaving. He was up and down the stairs a lot, but every trip back and forth berating me.
What's the last thing you remember saying to him?
Stop. Stop.
Melanie said he'd driven off, and she presumed he was in Atlantic City.
He would have been back. He would have been back. I knew it.
But this isn't just a few days that Bill McGuire is gone. We're talking weeks.
What bothered me was that Melanie never reached out and said, hey, Bill's missing.
She never reported her husband missing, and it's almost 30 days.
The fact that we never heard anything from her was deeply suspicious to me.
Love is always ready to excuse, to trust, to hope, and to endure whatever comes. Love does not come to an end. This is the word of the Lord.
In the early morning hours of April 29, 2004, Melanie McGuire said that she and her husband Bill had a violent fight, and that he left and she never saw him again.
Melanie says the next day she got her kids up, she took them to daycare, and she started trying to figure out how she was going to move on with her life without Bill.
And during this, the next day, the day after that, you didn't hear anything from him?
No.
Did you try calling him directly?
No, because this is what used to happen when we fought. You know, I'd call, whether it was to tell him off or to try to apologize or what, we just end up getting back into it again. I'm done now. I'm done.
She retains a divorce attorney, and at this point, she does tell the divorce attorney that she has not seen her husband in a few days. And according to Melanie, the attorney advised her not to file a missing persons report.
My heart broke for her. She didn't deserve, nobody deserved that. But I told her that, you know, she needed to think about herself right now. She needs to protect herself.
I called a business associate of mine who was an attorney. She said, you need to get a restraining order.
State your full name.
Melanie Lynn McGuire.
She had to go in front of a judge and give sworn statement about the incident that happened.
Tell me what happened that brought you to court today for a temporary restraining order?
My husband and I closed on our first house on Wednesday.
That should be a positive thing, shouldn't it?
Yeah, it should. He's been behaving really erratically.
Ms. McGuire, you're safe here. Don't worry.
Melanie explained to the judge how Bill had been violent with her.
Did he hit you, ma'am?
No, not until, well, I don't mean to sound like I had absolutely no part in this. I said some not nice things and slapped me.
As part of the questions, Melanie was asked by the judge if she owned any firearms.
Do you know if there's any weapons?
Not to my knowledge.
This is a sketch of the body that washed ashore near the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel this month.
We're hoping maybe this will give us an edge and maybe identify him sooner.
About a month goes by between the time that Bill disappears and when Sue Rice identifies Bill McGuire after seeing the sketch on local TV. The next thing police have to do is notify Melanie McGuire of the death of her husband.
Melanie was asked to come down to the police station.
The officer came out and he says, "Is your husband William McGuire?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "I'm sorry to tell you, ma'am, that William is deceased." And I just burst into tears.
But there's one thing she never asked. How was Bill McGuire murdered?
They did not tell her how and the condition in which he was found.
That would be one of the first questions that I would ask.
The next step was that the Virginia police wanted to speak with Melanie. Melanie agrees, but she brings her divorce attorney with her and another criminal attorney in that practice.
Conducting an interview with the victim's wife with two attorneys present is highly unusual. First time I have ever had that happen to me. She was nervous, she was visibly shaking. She made expressions like she was crying, but she never had a tear in her eye. I asked her if she had any luggage, and she informed us that they didn't have any matching luggage.
The next day, Melanie told detectives she suddenly remembered that the McGuires did own a matching set of designer luggage.
I showed her a picture of one of the pieces of luggage that we recovered in the bay, and she identified that as belonging to them.
They asked what kind of person Bill was, and she said he was the kind of person that had a knack for pissing people off.
She asked us, where did we find her husband's vehicle at? I told her at that point we hadn't found her husband's vehicle. And she said that probably a good place to look would be Atlantic City, New Jersey. She also informed us that her husband had a gambling problem.
Did he get involved with the wrong people? That's what I would have to believe, that he had gotten himself into something, and Bill always thought he could handle everything.
He was always into some kind of deal, so I think maybe this deal was his last deal.
After the interview was done that evening, we also conducted a search at their old apartment building. The apartment was empty. She had already moved out.
They asked him about Bill's possessions and his clothes.
We discovered that Miss McGuire had already given all of her husband's belongings away.
Virginia Beach detectives find out that Melanie McGuire had given most of Bill's belongings away to a friend's cousin, and they wanted to track that man down. Eventually they did and found out that most of Bill's clothing was still in black trash bags, much like the bags that contained Bill McGuire's body parts.
The garbage bag by sight looked identical.
Things are starting to make sense with the detectives. There's the black trash bags, and there was also the hospital blanket that the head was wrapped into. And they're thinking, well, Melanie McGuire is a nurse. That's kind of an odd coincidence.
At Melanie's suggestion, detectives start to search Atlantic City for Bill's car. And lo and behold, that's exactly where they find it.
The Atlantic City forensic unit processed Mr. McGuire's vehicle. They took photos, they fingerprinted, They vacuum cleaned the floorboards.
The body was released to Melanie on a Tuesday. Immediately she had him cremated. And the funeral lasted all of 10-15 minutes at the most. She called the following evening after the funeral, and at that point I just kind of blasted her. I just told her, I said, Melanie, Bill deserves so much more. And Mel just said, well, I'm a single mom now, and now I've just got to get on with my life. I said, well, no, the next thing is we've got to figure out who did this to him. And after I got off the phone, I remember hanging it up, and I said, John, she did it. She did it.
Everything pointed to Melanie McGuire.
Through wiretapping her phones, the police discovered the relationship that she was having with Dr. Miller.
It's a eureka moment because it provides motive.
I've told them everything that I know. But they're, they just don't.
They want you to break.
What's the last thing you remember saying to him?
Stop. Stop.
People like to believe that someone was capable of committing this type of murder.
Accused of cutting up his body and throwing it into the Chesapeake Bay.
That the person who did that would look like a monster. But sometimes killers look just like Melanie McGuire.
Is there anything else you're not dealt with?
Like what? Like I killed my husband.
Did you?
Next risk?
A scorched earth investigation was conducted, and the lack of evidence is resounding.
The evidence in this case points to a well-organized, meticulously planned execution of a murder.
Computer searches that said how to murder someone, how to poison someone, basically multiple searches about how you kill someone.
I don't get to be an evil genius and an idiot at the same time.
I believe that Melanie was wrongfully convicted.
Who do you think killed your husband? Melanie McGuire, once a married mother to 2 little boys and a fertility nurse, is today a 47-year-old inmate at the Edna Mann Correctional Facility in Clinton, New Jersey.
In here, guilt and innocence is irrelevant in day-to-day life. I have 6 numbers and a letter after my name, the same as the woman on one side of me and the same as the woman on the other side of me.
After Virginia Beach exhausted their investigation, they realized all signs pointed north to New Jersey.
My name is Patty Prezioso. I was the lead investigator in the Melanie McGuire investigation and prosecution.
Patty Prezioso was a very driven and highly successful Assistant Attorney General in New Jersey.
You let the evidence guide you and you follow it until it's clear what happened.
She was extremely competent, and it was obvious.
The task force had local police, state police, the Attorney General's office. They decided to treat this case with top priority.
It was clear that he had been shot, and trying to find out if any of the people close to Bill owned a gun was a top priority.
The detectives don't find any record of Melanie buying a gun in New Jersey, so they decide to check Pennsylvania.
They knew that Pennsylvania was close, and a lot of people will go to Pennsylvania for firearms because the gun laws are more lax. There's less of a waiting period, and so you can go in and essentially walk out the same day with a firearm.
It turned out that when the record check was done with Pennsylvania, a record came back that Melanie McGuire had purchased a gun.
I remember plain as day when she came in, because not many women come into the shop. She filled the forms out, and then when she wrote down her occupation, that she was a nurse, that stuck in my mind, because I guess that was the first time I ever sold a gun, to a nurse.
Melanie bought a Taurus 38 Special, and she bought wad cutter bullets.
And that gun was purchased just 2 days before Melanie McGuire said her husband went missing.
And remember, early on, Virginia detectives talked to Melanie, and she never mentioned anything to them about buying a gun.
I had informed my attorneys of the purchase of the gun, and they said, well, you know, if they ask, don't lie, but don't offer any information. And they never asked about a gun.
Melanie bought the gun because Bill wanted her to buy the gun. She could get it, he wanted it. What he wanted, he got.
Because Bill McGuire had a felony conviction stemming from his horrendous driving record, he was barred from purchasing firearms.
You say your husband asked you to purchase the gun, but you purchased a gun just 2 days before your husband went missing.
Of course, it's a coincidence. However, he was on me for a while about that, about trying to get that. And if something was happening, if he was in some sort of trouble, that may very well have been the reason why he was so intent on getting it.
Once the police really honed in on Melanie, they began wiretapping her phones.
Hello. Hi.
The surveillance was so intense that over a 40-day period, they recorded 500 hours of her phone calls.
Every time you get your head back above water. Yep. And that hand reaches out from beyond the grave.
A lot of those calls were very cryptic.
Hey. How you doing? I spoke to, what's his name, about shipping?
Alice.
I didn't want to say name. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yep.
She used the phrase a lot, being cut off at the knees.
At least meet with a lawyer ahead of time who might cut it off at the knees.
Doesn't that look suspicious?
It doesn't matter what it looks like.
She was a little salty. That was her personality, though. She was a Jersey girl.
A lot of them were to her boyfriend, Dr. Bradley Miller.
It was very clear right from the beginning that the relationship with Dr. Miller was different. There was a change in her voice. It was a softer tone.
It's a eureka moment when they realize that she's having an affair because it provides motive. Dr. Miller also becomes a suspect. So one night when Dr. Miller was leaving work, he was going to his car. And the detectives came out to confront him.
Dr. Miller was adamant that he had nothing to do with any crime and he didn't know anything about this. And so I think the police said, well, prove it. You know, if you're willing to wear a wire, we'll believe you.
It is now 2:30 p.m., May 31st, 2005. Brad Miller making an outgoing call to Melanie McGuire. Hello? I've told them everything that I know. But they just don't.
They want you to break.
I mean, if you want us to stick together, I gotta know everything now. Before this goes any further.
What do you mean you have to know everything now?
I mean, there's no other secrets between us, right?
That I can think of.
You swear you had nothing to do with us?
Yeah.
And your children's lives. Because I'm standing by you.
Yeah.
In those intercepted phone calls, another friend she was speaking to was Jim Finn.
Melanie met Jim Finn in nursing school, and Jim admittedly had a crush on Melanie.
But once she left nursing school, she never talked to him again. You know, that was it until February 2004, and she suddenly got in touch with him again.
When she needed something, he was someone that, you know, she could manipulate. And she knew he was a lover of guns.
The police also approach Jim Finn because they find that before Bill disappeared, she's been talking to him about the firearms.
She said to him, hey, I need to talk to you. There's some weird stuff going on here, and Bill is acting weird.
Jim, who really still holds the torch for Melanie, and Melanie knows that, says, well, maybe you should get a gun to defend yourself.
Investigators pick up Jim Finn, who also allows them to record his conversations with Melanie. And once they hear what's on those calls, they're satisfied Finn knew nothing about the murder.
The reason I asked you about buying a gun is because my husband wanted one.
He wanted one?
Yeah. Not only did he want one, you tell me?
At the time the detective spoke to Jim Finn, he had no idea that Melanie McGuire had purchased a gun. He was surprised.
Is there anything else you're not telling me? Like what? Like I killed my husband. Did you? No. But thanks for asking.
Melanie never wavers on whether or not she was involved. It is always a hard no.
I want you to tell me the truth. I'm telling you the truth. I did not do it.
She was under a microscope. Everything she did was being watched. Everything she said was being listened to.
Melanie does something that most people would find a little suspicious.
Investigators start looking at her Easy Pass records. They notice trips to Atlantic City.
She knew that Bill McGuire's car was in Atlantic City because she put it there. That requires 2 drivers. So that means someone helped her.
What investigators find in Atlantic City has them wondering, did Melanie have an accomplice? And if so, who was it? The next set of clues in the mystery of who killed Bill McGuire leads investigators to a 170-mile stretch of toll road, the Garden State Parkway. With Melanie now the prime suspect, detectives start pulling her records. They try to track her movements in the days around her husband's disappearance, and one of those is her Easy Pass statement.
So when investigators start looking at her Easy Pass records, they notice that there were charges for 2 trips to Atlantic City.
On April 30th, 2004, just 2 days after the fight Melanie said that she and Bill had, Melanie does something that is very odd and most people would find a little suspicious.
I'm starting to become more actively angry at him. And I'm thinking, that son of a bitch, I know where he is.
According to Melanie, she decides that he's probably in Atlantic City gambling, so she's going to drive down there and she's going to look for his car.
Absolutely not rational, but get in the car and go down there. And I'm driving down, and I take the first pass on this highway, and I see a dark sedan. There's no way. There's no way. And lo and behold, there it is.
Once Melanie spots Bill's car from the highway, she decides she's going to move his car. Melanie says in the past, when they're angry at each other, it's a way of messing with each other, I guess you could say.
Pull off onto a little side street, and I parked my car, and it was like Mission Impossible. Scooted up to the car, got in, started it, and drove away.
And where'd you put it?
What I believe to be the Flamingo Hotel.
What Melanie said was, I was gonna move his car to the seediest part of town, the most annoying for him to find.
That just didn't make any sense, that he was physically abusive to her, but then she goes to mess with a car with a guy that she claims she doesn't want to be around.
It sounds beyond ridiculous sitting here saying it, and I acknowledge that, and I can't, you know, it's the truth.
It's an incredible story, meaning it's just not credible.
We believe she was planting his car in Atlantic City. She was trying to create an illusion that Bill McGuire was still alive. That requires 2 drivers. So certainly that means someone helped her. Someone had her Pathfinder, and she was driving Bill McGuire's car. They put the car at the Flamingo Hotel, and then she went home with the person driving her car.
And investigators thought they'd struck pay dirt when they discovered that hotel's parking lot had surveillance cameras.
In truth, of course, the footage did not capture who the driver was.
The surveillance video from the Flamingo Hotel actually showed the victim's vehicle being pulled into a parking space. Because of the darkness and the glare and the background lights, you could not actually see the person that was occupying the vehicle.
There was another inexplicable road trip, this time to Delaware, 5 days after her husband went missing.
She had shared with Dr. Miller that in the early morning hours of May 4th, she was actually furniture shopping.
Investigators think that this Delaware furniture trip is really just a ruse.
That same road would have taken her to the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel.
Normally, someone would take the New Jersey Turnpike to go over the Delaware Memorial Bridge, picking up Route 13, which runs south to the Chesapeake Bay Bridge and Tunnel.
Patty Precioso says that Melanie actually left the night before from New Jersey, drove Bill's remains to Virginia.
We believe that that was when she took the suitcases with Bill's remains and got rid of them in the Chesapeake Bay. And the first suitcase turned up the very next day.
But of course, Melanie thinks this theory is preposterous.
Virginia Beach is another 450 miles from Delaware. So, I mean, you're talking about hours, and there just isn't enough time.
And why would she drive all the way down to Chesapeake with the body parts in the car, thinking, I'm not going to get stopped, I'm not going to break down? What a chance that is. You know, I mean, you can't stop on a bridge and open a window and throw 3 suitcases out.
Maybe if it was one of these pieces of circumstantial evidence for which you might have a reasonable explanation for 1 or 2, but we're talking a large amount. You can't have reasonable explanations for all of them.
It's a mountain, and it's a lot of coincidences, and that's absolutely.
But coincidences don't always make for the best evidence. And detectives were still searching for any physical evidence that would link Melanie McGuire to her husband Bill's murder.
Where is the proof? Where is the forensic evidence?
The task force is convinced that Bill was murdered and dismembered at their townhouse in Woodbridge, so they concentrate on that.
They went back 4 to 5 times to search for any evidence.
They did everything that you would typically think of, right? They brought in the luminol, pulled down parts of the walls, they pulled out the piping, pulling floorboards up. They really turned this place upside down a number of times.
They were trying to find bullets, traces of blood, and nothing ever came up.
Couldn't find any forensic evidence whatsoever to establish that this was a crime scene.
I don't know how you would dismember a body and effectively clean that up.
Despite that glaring lack of physical evidence, investigators still believe the circumstantial evidence is enough, and they arrest Melanie McGuire.
So surreal. Day like any other, getting the kids off to daycare.
We surveilled her to the school, waited for her to drop her children off.
Walking out of the building, I'm not even off the curb. Melanie McGuire, can you come with us, please? I knew.
2 years and 10 months after the first suitcase washed up, the trial against Melanie McGuire commences in Middlesex County, and it was a sensation.
The evidence will show that while Bill was engrossed in purchasing the house, the defendant was very busy planning his death.
There was no proof that Melanie McGuire murdered her husband.
Prosecutor said either Melanie McGuire is guilty or she's the unluckiest woman in the world.
On Monday, March 5th, 2007, 2 years and 10 months after the first suitcase had washed up in the Chesapeake Bay, Melanie McGuire went on trial for her husband's first-degree murder.
This was a case that had garnered a lot of media attention in New Jersey. It had all the elements that it was going to be a salacious trial.
The judge let us know that the trial was going to be televised.
Let's bring a couple of experts into the conversation to help us sort through yesterday's evidence.
It made people act differently.
I think Melanie loved the idea that she was the center of attention.
She seemed very relaxed, much more relaxed than I would have been.
It was a double-edged sword, because if she sat there, more stoic, she looked nasty or she looked mean. And then when she was being more upbeat and talking to people, oh, well, she's joking around at her own trial. There was nothing she could do that wasn't going to be criticized.
By the time Melanie McGuire gets to trial, she's hired Stephen Turano and Joe Tacopina to represent her. Joe Tacopina was a high-profile celebrity attorney.
Joe Tacopina.
Joe Tacopina.
Joining me now, Joe Tacopina. He's the attorney for Alex Rodriguez.
He feels just as comfortable in front of a TV camera as in front of a jury.
A scorched earth investigation was conducted, and the lack of evidence is resounding.
The evidence in this case points to a well-organized, meticulously planned execution of a murder.
Is that a fair description of you? Were you somebody, if you were going to do something, you were going to do it all the way?
Correct. And I would counter that argument with, if that's the case, then I would have been sure to not include blankets that could be traced to me, my own luggage. I don't get to be an evil genius and an idiot at the same time.
They're not going to be able to tell you where William McGuire was killed, how he was killed, when he was killed.
The defense were really trying to play to the jury that Bill was a major gambler and he may have owed thousands and thousands of dollars.
He was a big gambler because he gambled beyond his means. When you have money out on the street and you're behind and you're not making payments, you know what happens? You get shot here and you get shot here.
As prosecutors start laying out what they believe Melanie McGuire did to Bill, it all starts with something they found in his car after it was processed in Atlantic City.
When investigators first recovered Bill's car, they found a bottle of chloral hydrate, a red liquid, and also a syringe in it.
State's Exhibit 983. Do you recognize that?
Yes, that's the vial we dispensed the liquid in.
Chloral hydrate is, have you ever heard the term slip somebody a Mickey? It's the Mickey. It's what it is, it's almost like a knockout drug.
They do a lot of investigating on this chloral hydrate, and eventually they find out that it was purchased the morning that Bill disappeared.
Somebody dropped off this prescription for chloral hydrate at the Walgreens pharmacy, which is just down the road from where Melanie's children went to preschool.
But the prescription pad was that of Dr. Brad Miller, who was Melanie's boss. So the light bulb goes off and they're thinking right away, clearly Melanie had access to this prescription pad. She used it, she filled it.
Chloral hydrate was necessary for this defendant to have control, and even more importantly, it was necessary to her that Bill McGuire had no control. Dr. Miller looked at the prescription and he said, "That's not my signature, and it appears to be Melanie McGuire's handwriting."
Prosecutors also focused on what they said Melanie was doing in the days before her husband's disappearance. For that, they looked at the McGuire's home computer.
We had it forensically examined, and it really was just astounding seeing what the internet searches were for. Can you describe the searches that you recovered?
How to purchase guns illegally, how to commit murder, and undetectable poisons was searched.
It didn't look good. It looked like someone was searching how to, sedate someone or how to kill them.
I'm a nurse. I was a nurse. And I don't need to look up things like that. If I wanted to look for something like that, I have a PDR, Physician's Desk Reference. I have a book that I can look in that doesn't leave an internet history.
But both Melanie and Bill used this computer. So it's really hard to figure out who was searching these things.
Now, you have absolutely no idea of knowing who actually conducted the searches that you talked about, correct?
No, I don't.
One of the things we can say for certain is that your husband didn't commit suicide. He didn't shoot himself. He wasn't able to carve his own body up. And yet there's a suggestion from the defense that some of the online searches were things that he was in fact doing, not that you were doing.
It wasn't me.
Although investigators found no physical evidence in the McGuire's home, they did find something significant in Bill McGuire's car,
After Bill's car was recovered in Atlantic City, our criminalist was able to locate several pieces of small flesh. These pieces of flesh are an artifact of Bill McGuire's body being disarticulated. The phrase was used, human sawdust.
Human sawdust is a term that did not exist until this case, as I understand it.
I found particles that, to me, look like it could be possibly human tissue.
DNA results indicated that the flesh belonged to Bill McGuire.
What this really was a few pieces of microscopic skin cells that were a little bit deeper than the skin we passively shed.
Could those tissues, the tissue that you looked at, be shed from a live human being?
It cannot be shed from a live human being. It's not a typical shedding process at all.
Their theory was that this nurse, who was kind of so meticulous, had somehow just forgotten to wipe the bottom of her shoes, that she accidentally tracked these human sawdust particles of Bill's body from the house to the car.
Thank you, Your Honor.
There were 81 witnesses in 7 weeks.
Good morning, Dr. Miller.
Good morning.
Dr. Miller was the testimony that everyone was most anticipating. He was going to be the big star of the trial.
I was having an affair, and my whole life turned upside down.
Were you in love with the defendant?
Do you want to call your next witness, please?
Yes, Your Honor. The state calls Dr. Bradley Miller.
The most anticipated day of this trial is when the man whom Melanie McGuire had a 3-year affair with, Dr. Bradley Miller, took the stand.
Everybody knew that that was the prosecution's star witness, and the court was filled.
And when you saw him, what was your feeling?
How could you? How could you?
Dr. Miller was in a very difficult spot. He and his family had gone through a very difficult time, and it was just made clear to him, just take a deep breath and make sure you tell the absolute truth.
Can you describe to the jury what was your relationship with her?
We worked together. She was an excellent nurse. She took very good care of the patients. They all loved her.
Sir, did there come a time when your relationship with Miss McGuire got more intimate?
Yes, it did. It was towards the end of her second pregnancy. She was about 38 weeks pregnant. And before she went on maternity leave, we had oral sex in the office.
So not proud of that.
It has to be pretty hard to hear it come out in court.
Hard for me to hear it, hard for me to think, oh my God, my parents are hearing this, my 84-year-old grandmother is hearing this.
Were you in love with the defendant?
Yes, I was.
Had the two of you discussed future plans together?
Yes, we were hoping to be together in the future.
If we do make it through this, I'll just have to take whatever money I can get and get away.
With Dr. Miller on the stand, prosecutors were able to score some points because there were certain things that Melanie never told Dr. Miller.
Did the defendant ever tell you that she purchased a gun?
No, ma'am. I had no knowledge of her purchasing a gun, no.
Did the defendant ever tell you that she went to Atlantic City and parked her husband Bill's car at the Flamingo Hotel?
No, she did not.
Did there come a time when the defendant shared with you that she had done that?
Yes, and I asked her, well, why didn't you tell me this sooner? And she told me that she didn't want me to be upset, that she's going back to find Bill, to bring him back, and rekindle the relationship.
We looked very closely at Dr. Miller. There was no evidence connecting him with this crime.
This is in reference to consensual recordings between Brad Miller and Melanie McGuire.
You agreed to consensually record a conversation with the defendant.
Yes, I did.
Prosecutors really wanted the jury to hear those intercepted calls so they could get a sense that maybe her desire to be with him was the motive for the murder.
During the calls, Dr. Miller spoke about their future together, probably prompted by detectives.
After a divorce, and she gets half the money, I mean, it'd still be something to live on.
The understanding between us had always been that the children came first. And he starts talking about divorce and a future and moving forward, and I even say on the tape, why are you talking like this all of a sudden?
I'm confused because you've been the one to stress to me that we have to wait and see how everything plays out.
The defense was also able to score some points with those recordings, which called into question Dr. Miller's character.
At the time of those secret recordings, he was still having an intimate relationship with her.
After you tape recorded her, sir, you then had additional intimate relations with her, correct?
Yes, sir.
Did you tell her that, by the way, that you had tape recorded her?
No, I did not.
I think that was damaging to his character and was a very big turnoff to the jury.
Have you ever had contact again with Dr. Brad Miller?
No. No. After the day he testified, I haven't laid eyes on him since.
You have no desire?
It's tough. That was a tough betrayal to swallow.
What matters is whether the state, and the burden is on me and I welcome it, whether the state has proved each and every element beyond a reasonable doubt. When you combine the computer searches, the prescription for chloral hydrate on prescription pads that the defendant used, and then you have the victim found inside their matching luggage, the bullets consistent with the gun that she purchased.
It was a mountain of evidence. There's no question in my mind that she did it. I also don't believe that she acted alone.
Now, who helped her?
And Patty Precioso told the jury that there was a very, very good chance that Melanie had an accomplice.
Although he was never charged, investigators took a hard look at Melanie's stepfather, Michael Caporero.
The prosecutor needed somebody, so they focused in on me. Anything they wanted, we gave them. We gave them DNA, we gave them hair samples. I had nothing to do with anything involving that crime.
You don't need the precise when. You don't need the precise where.
You don't have to find that she pulled the trigger. You don't have to find that she had hands-on physically in regards to his death. Well, boy, that leaves a lot of speculation out there for the jury. You can't guess someone into prison for the rest of their life.
The jury goes into deliberation, and Melanie and her family are waiting on pins and needles.
I was very concerned. I think we all as people like to believe that if someone was capable of committing this type of murder, that the person who did that would look like a monster. But sometimes killers look just like Melanie McGuire.
The day the verdict was read, the atmosphere in the courtroom was just electric.
Has the jury reached a verdict in this case?
Yes, Your Honor.
How do you find as to the count of the indictment charging Melanie McGuire with the murder of William McGuire?
Guilty.
I just remember seeing her collapse.
I remember grabbing Joe's arm, and I remember feeling my legs just kind of go out from under me.
She's alternating between, I didn't do it.
It's just beginning for us now. We'll never give up. We will never, ever give up for her until the truth comes out.
On direct appeal, we examine the murder conviction of Melanie McGuire.
This is a prepaid call from Melanie McGuire, an inmate at Edna Mahan Correctional Facility.
All right. Obviously, Melanie's been convicted. She's exhausted all of her appeals at this point. So how did the idea for this podcast come about?
Melanie McGuire was looking to speak with someone about her story because she had done really poorly in the court system, and I think she was frustrated. And after visiting with her the first time, I was like, this is a story. This is important.
I expected the worst, and what I got was just one step shy. They give the verdict, parole eligible at the tender age of 101.
It was very difficult. It was reliving it. This was the first time somebody was basically saying, we hear you.
What'd you say? Let's get to the juicy part.
I want to know, do you think she is innocent or guilty?
In the end, I believe that Melanie McGuire was wrongfully convicted.
So you believe an innocent woman is behind bars right now?
Absolutely. I believe this is a case of a wrongful conviction.
So let's talk about some of the questions you raise in your podcast, and let's begin with the gun.
The gun to this day has never been recovered.
One of the key witnesses for the prosecution was a forensic ballistic expert.
So these are two discharge bullets. They're referred to as a 38 caliber lead wad cutter bullet.
Is it possible that the gun Melanie bought is not actually the murder weapon?
I think it's probable.
No one plugged the serial number of my gun into a website to find out what the specifications were. Apparently each gun makes something called lands and grooves.
Lands and grooves are rifling characteristics that are machine pressed into the barrel of a gun. And when the bullet passes through the barrel, the same number of lands and grooves are going to be imprinted essentially onto that bullet.
There were 5 lands and grooves that my weapon was said to have made based on the company's website. The bullets that came out of my husband had 6 lands and grooves.
It was a mistake on a gun manufacturer's website. We were not gathering evidence from a gun manufacturer's website. The evidence that was at trial was from ballistic experts.
But the website was updated.
It was.
After this trial to incorporate the possibility that it could have 5 or 6.
Yeah.
I thought that was questionable. I think it's very questionable that for years historically it says one thing and then it's updated right after.
Let's talk about the garbage bags.
The prosecution had an expert that said that the garbage bag in which Bill's body was found in was consistent with the garbage bags that came from Melanie's apartment.
You can see these lines here. There's a straight line here, this sort of smooth line. There's also 2 other lines close together in basically the exact same position. This indicates that these 2 bags were made at the same facility on the same line within a very close proximity of time.
He ran tests, but he didn't do all the tests that you actually need to definitively say whether these bags matched. Even his own data shows that they probably weren't the same bags.
Well, there are always other tests that can be done in any analysis. Based on the testing we had conducted and the results that I observed, I felt competent at that time to conclude that the bags were produced during the same run.
They put on a really good show. And I think when you have props, 2 garbage bags, oh wow, those do look alike. And so what the jurors are listening to sounds like fact, when in reality, it's just someone's expert opinion.
There is something else that's significant that you think the jury should have heard more about that was found inside those suitcases.
If you look through the lab reports, page upon page upon page, white hair, brown hair, black hair, animal hair. I think that's indicative that there is animal hair where the dismemberment took place of Bill's body.
You mentioned that you found some animal hairs. Did you find anything that you considered of evidential value?
No.
And they looked high and low to connect Melanie to some pet. And once they found that there was no way to connect Melanie to these pet hairs, it became not of evidentiary value.
Why is that? Simply because they don't match your suspects?
Those hairs should have been tested because that's a huge question mark.
Melanie did not incapacitate, shoot, use a saw to dismember her husband. You know how hard it is to cut through bone? It is physically exhausting. And also, if the crime scene didn't happen there and she's home with her children all night, where is this happening? There are just too many holes in this story.
In this case, with the mountain of evidence against her and a very complex plan, I submit to you it's amazing we know as much as we do.
This was a murder trial. It wasn't a contest to see who could outsmart the investigators, and if someone is smart enough to successfully hide a crime scene, that they win.
Did you find any evidence that exonerates Melanie, that proves her innocence?
I wish we did. I had hoped we would. I still think that we might get a tip in that direction.
What do you say to the people at home who watch this and say, how dare she talk from prison and bring this all back up again? Enough pain has already befallen her husband's family, her own sons.
There's a murderer walking around. Even if we discount what's happened to me, the killer is out there. And it's not me.
She had about as good a counsel as money could buy. She certainly had a fair and impartial jury. The fact of the matter is sometimes the evidence is such that your attorneys, no matter what you can pay them, they simply cannot overcome what you've done. So she can say whatever she wants. She's a liar and she's a killer.
Today your boys are young men?
They are.
Is there anything you'd want to say to them?
There will always be questions about this case that we may never have the answers to, like if Melanie McGuire did kill her husband, why did she drive more than 300 miles to get rid of his remains in the Chesapeake Bay? His friend John Rice has a theory.
Bill did want to move down here onto Virginia Beach. After a time, he gave up on that idea. So it almost seemed like a vindictive thing on her part to drive him down. Oh, you want to go to Virginia Beach? Here you go.
Why was it important for you to tell this story on your podcast?
A lot of people who are convicted, they'll go through the appeals process, but they won't prevail. If we can investigate this, provide any type of assistance, we're possibly remedying some of the harshest parts of our system.
There are times when podcasts and media can shine a light where what the government did was not right. This is not one of those cases. A 39-year-old man lost his life before he got to see his children grow up.
You have 2 little kids.
Yep. That's the hardest part. Knowing that when I see my children, when I hug them goodbye, it could be the last time.
Ultimately, the courts would award custody to Bill's sister, Cindy Lagoche. Melanie has had no contact with them.
Today your boys are young men?
They are.
Is there anything you'd want to say to them?
Make up your own mind. Don't accept what you're just being told on the surface. Dig.
What is your level of hope that one day you might walk out of here?
I'm terrified to hope, because to have it thwarted in here, it's absolutely soul-crushing.
Bill McGuire was the father of 2 small children. He was a brother, he was a friend, and his life got cut short.
I think Bill deserves to be remembered as a fantastic friend, a dad who loved his boys. He didn't deserve this. Nobody deserves that. No one.